You happen to represent more lottery winners than any other attorney in the United States.
I have a wall of these big checks. It's what I call artwork. They refer to me as the Winston Wolfe of lottery lawyers because I can make people disappear. We're not going to buy a house in your name. We're going to set up some type of land trust so that no one knows who bought this big mansion in Arizona. Their kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids will never have to work because there's $20 million in each of these trusts for these individuals that aren't even born yet. It's very hard for someone that has a winning ticket to, control themselves, to live life normally. You have to keep things status quo for a while. I don't want you to quit.
You have to tell a client not to put the ticket in the damn freezer?
I tell them that because people have done that before.
What is the single strangest request a client has ever made after winning? What happens if somebody from across the southern border comes here, buys a lottery ticket, and wins?
It happens. A lot of scratch-offs. The concern a lot of the lotteries have is...
Are most of your clients who call you and say that they won the lottery, are they broke? Okay, I want to start off by telling all of my viewers, if you like and subscribe, you will have access to Kurt Panouses. You guys always have so many different lottery questions. Like, subscribe, leave a comment with your question. I always reach out to Kurt by phone and he answers them. Okay, so let's do that. But Kurt, thank you so much for joining me again. I first want to ask you this. You're not in your office as you usually are, and I haven't heard from you in 2 months.
I didn't win. I'm not in some foreign island or something like that.
Kurt, let's start with this. Mega Millions is at $1 billion right now. And I'm wondering, is this exactly what the Lottery Commission was hoping for? Because it was just about 6 months ago when they raised ticket prices to $5, hoping that we'll see astronomical jackpot prizes. Is this exactly what they were hoping for? Because they didn't get a lot of good press at the time.
Yeah, no, I think there were a lot of people that were very upset, players that were very upset, and also the vendors when you went to the store to buy a ticket for a while. And even today, I think a couple of times when I've actually been to the grocery store and I'll buy my ticket, it's kind of funny. They'll go, do you know it's $5? And so I kind of laugh. I go, yeah, I know. But I'm certain that there's lots of people that were still in shock that you haven't played the game in a while and then find out it's $5. So, of course, the lottery, as they call it, the consortium of people, this group that we don't know who they are, just kind of like the group that runs the government and the world. There's a group that makes these decisions, and they're very happy right now because they want to see $1 billion tickets because they assume that that's going to increase the play.
With that said, Kurt, I've known you for several years now. We've done a lot of local media interviews. For viewers who may not know me, I'm a news anchor and a news reporter. I've worked for ABC affiliates in California, Denver, now in Utah, ironically, where you can't buy lottery tickets. I actually drove down to Wyoming because they didn't have a state income tax there to buy the Powerball when it hit $2 billion. But I say this, Kurt, because if I ever won, I would have to try to keep that win anonymous. But there's no way I could disappear because of how much of a footprint I've had in the public spotlight. But do you ever have people come to you, Kurt, and not only say, can you help me stay anonymous, but can you also help me disappear? Legally, but disappear. And how do you do that?
Sure. I mean, you have to have some type of story that will lead to why you might be leaving the current area that you're in. You have neighbors. You don't want to do anything right away, obviously. And that goes along with the claiming process. Like if I was helping someone right now and we were thinking about when would we claim this because we wanted to do it, the client wanted to do it in 2025, didn't want it to wait until January. I might say, let's get everything ready, have it all ready to go, and just put it on pause until, guess what? Till the government decides that they're going to reopen, they have a vote. Because I guarantee you, no one's going to be looking at who won a lottery the day after this happens, eventually our government will be back in business, and that's going to be the day that I'm going to want to run over wherever it is and claim this ticket. So, doing some proper planning with that makes some sense. But helping someone get a PO box, slowly get into the process, keep your home, don't sell it right away, but let's go wherever you're going to go. Buy a new place. You'll have the money to do it. You can wire it in there and you'll use some good financial people that are not in your neighborhood. So they're not going to know, your neighbors aren't going to know. You can use someone from West Palm Beach. You can use someone from Vero Beach. I got contacts all over the United States, Florida and elsewhere, where we can get some good financial groups that could come in to help you. But you can buy a place and maybe over a short period of time, spend 6 months there and 6 months at your current house, or 4 months at your current house, and tell someone, yeah, I decided to, kind of slowly retire. Don't make it a one-day thing that I'm selling, I'm moving out. Do it slowly, and then eventually put the house up for sale. If you win $900 million, you can't keep your $150,000 home in Utah for a while. Just keep it on the books. Go back for a couple weeks, couple months, go back and forth, and then eventually just sell it and no one will know.
So I guess what you're saying is the best way to actually go undetected is actually just kind of still be plugged in,
sure,
but to have everything kind of set up. Maybe that's the best way to stay anonymous.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you don't do what the guy did in California and start buying mansions. That just brings more and more attention to you, and more people will hate you. Just like one of my clients, at the time they had to do an
Hold on. Let's lean into that. You're talking about the winner in California from a few years ago who won and who won north of $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And he's buying up all the homes, a lot of the homes that burned down in the Palisades fire. Is that who you're talking about?
Well, yes. I mean, that's another thing that the person did, because they have this wealth. All that's going to do is have people hate you. Okay. And I told one of my clients early on that there was a time period where you had to sign the back of if you signed the back of the ticket, you couldn't change it and your name had to be used. And so we had to do a PR stunt, and I'd rather do it at the lottery office rather than in the front yard. So we did it there where we had it all planned out. And one thing I told the person is, listen, everyone's going to be watching in America today. Don't give them a reason to hate you. Don't say you're going to take the money and buy a villa here and a villa there. Say you're just going to, relax and you're going to want to get a massage. You're going to want to buy a pickup truck, then America will love you. But don't do things that people are going to hate you. Don't come off as being, someone. You can use some words for it. You can ad lib for me, but you don't want anyone to be, hate you as a person, and start being jealous of the fact that why did they win? I should have won. And that's really the other issue when you go into these lottery offices. All these people can't play the lottery, and they work in a job where all they do is sign documentation to give people that I represent millions of dollars. So they're not happy. But it's better than them working in the Department of Children and Family in their state. So the lottery job is a better job. But all they do is talk to winners, and they can't play. So they're not going to be the happiest people in the world with your documentation and congratulating you and giving you that they don't want to do any extra work. So they're not going to do that ink check that I asked for at the time.
Yeah, because obviously staying anonymous it would be the best route to go. There'd be less of a headache and less being in the public spotlight. But in cases that people do go public, you don't want to have a target on your back. You don't want too many enemies. And some people might argue, well, if I'm a million and multimillionaire, I don't care what people think about me. And that's great that people are out there. But for most people I know, even really wealthy people, their reputation, their legacy, how the world thinks of them because they're a part of the community does have a huge psychological impact. And for context on this fire, I mean, there's families there who live, who work their whole lives to get those homes, and how devastating that wildfire was for it to be burnt down. And I'm not taking a side on this. Yeah. I know you're not either, but like you're talking about the public idea of someone coming in and buying up all these mansions, and it was the guy who got lucky and won the lottery. So I totally understand the line of thinking there.
Whatever we're going to do to allow you to disappear, or to make any statements to family or friends or neighbors, don't do anything that will allow people to want to hate you. Do things that people will understand. Tell them, hey, I got a little bit of inheritance through an uncle that I didn't even know existed. And apparently he had this property and we sold it. So I got this big check. So I'm buying a house in Arizona. I'm going to spend a couple months in Arizona. They don't have to know how big the house is because you're not going to buy a house in your name. We're going to set up some type of land trust so that no one knows who bought this big mansion in Arizona or in Florida. So we're going to take those steps for the people. So having people disappear, I think there was someone that wrote an article years ago, which I laughed at the time, but they referred to me as the Winston Wolfe of lottery lawyers because I can make people disappear, which was the reference to Pulp Fiction, which I thought was hilarious. And that had nothing to do with this all of a sudden, but generally you just want to make sure people understand that they need to be nice people and continue to be nice people and do nice things, and that this is a gift that they are entrusted with.
Absolutely. Okay, Kurt. With that said, you mentioned you use an example of someone buying a home in Arizona. I'm just curious. Is there a common state that your lottery winners move to? And actually, let's broaden that. When you have a client who wins the lottery, do they typically move out of state, maybe out of the town they're in to a more affluent area, but do they kind of try to leave the whole area in general?
Not so much right away. They always keep that print there so that people don't automatically assume that they were the winner or knew of someone in the local area that had sold a winning ticket. And I always counsel them, you can afford to keep that house now, even though you're not there. Get people to cut the lawn and whatever you need to do. But where will they move? Yeah, there's like 7 states. They're called tax-free states because you want to move to one of these 7 states where there's no income taxes and make that your home base. And then, eventually you can get rid of your other house, wherever that is. But generally people want to go to places, and I recommend that they go to one of these tax-free states and pull up residency there.
Okay, Kurt, we've done several videos about the best tips, what to do exactly when you first win the lottery, who do you call first, what should you do to secure the ticket, all of these different things, okay? So for my viewers, we have those videos out there. But in this episode, Kurt, I want to ask about if there's anything new that we can talk about in terms of tips. I'm thinking that it's the end of the year. If somebody wins, there's tax season coming up. What should they be thinking about in terms of claiming the ticket?
Yeah, you're right on point there with that question. So, it's very hard for someone that has a winning ticket to control themselves, to live life normally. And they don't really, I've represented, I don't know how many people at this point in time, well over 50, 60 people that won. And they tell me that they don't feel comfortable until they've gone to the lottery office and tendered that ticket and walk out of the lottery office. That's the first time that they'll ever get any rest. So, we tell people, put ticket in a safe place and do this planning. Well, right now I have to add a third element to it because I'm going to tell someone that wins right now, and I have told a couple people that I'm representing in the process of, that maybe instead of running to the lottery office and claiming it now, and maybe getting that money from the lottery around Thanksgiving or the first week in December, because it's going to take a couple weeks for the administrative paperwork to go through, for security to look at the ticket. There's a couple states that pay it out right away, but most states want a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. California wants even longer. But you won't get the money till December. So then the question is, well, when do I pay my income tax? Well, if it's a 2025 transaction, which happens November, December at this point in time, you're paying your 24% federal tax now. Let's say your state tax you would pay now, but there's that other 13% that you have to pay for the federal government because you're at the 37% bracket. So that would be paid by April 15th. So do you want to pay that extra 13% on April 15th of 2026, or do you want to pay it on April 15th of 2027? So I think right now what I would tell someone, and what I have told some people that have won even a couple $1 million, let alone $1 billion, maybe it's best to push this into January so that way you have more time to do planning, more charitable planning, more income tax planning, putting your gains and losses together, having just a little bit more time before you have to write out the check to Uncle Sam.
Kurt, that's why you're the best. I mean, to know the nuances like that, to save your clients money and give them more time to plan, that's amazing. But how do you get them to come to this realization? Because, if you win $1 billion and let's say you don't have a lot of money, we know mostly poor communities play the lottery. Of course, when it gets to $1 billion, you get a lot of other people. But like for someone who's waited their entire lives for this moment, how do you kind of let's do this. In the last few months, you've had several $1 million winners. What's that conversation like with them? Are they waiting till next year to claim it, or is there an issue there?
The first thing out of the client's mouth is, well, is there a company or do you give me a supplemental income until I can claim it? And, of course, lawyers are not able to, make loans to their clients. That's a no-no from the Bar Association. And most companies are going to say, no, until the ticket turns into cash, we can't extend credit to you. It's not in our bylaws of extending, money like a bank would, like a mortgage. There's no security for it. So it's difficult because, you're trying to tell the person, keep the status quo, don't tell anyone for an extra couple of months. And it's hard for that. So, I'll tell someone, it's really up to you. I can do it either way. I'm just telling you what I would do is I would wait, put the ticket in a safe place, and go from there.
Kurt, are most of your clients who call you and say that they won the lottery, are they broke?
No. Most have worked or are working, but they're using these funds for things that they have always planned for. I get the calls all the time that say, hey, I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win. I had a dream about winning. I want to manifest all this stuff. And I want your name and phone number in my phone so that I can, call you immediately after I win. But most of them are still working jobs. And I'll tell them, you have to keep things status quo for a while. I don't want you to quit until we find out about your insurance, your medical insurance. What are you going to use? Unless you're on, Medicare or Medicare. I don't want anyone on Medicaid, obviously, because that would have a big effect on it. But if someone is on an insurance policy, if you quit your job, you lose your insurance. So take a leave of absence. Let's talk about this before you act on it. Cobra gets really expensive after a while. Well, let's talk about it. A $2 million win is not enough for someone to quit their job, in my opinion, unless they're already 65 years old. Then it makes some sense.
And we kind of get into the myth of the miserable lottery winner, this myth that most lottery winners somehow end up broke. And we know from recent studies, I spoke to a lottery expert, a historian, a lottery academic, who basically said this isn't true. He said that there's a few studies that show most lottery winners end up living happier, healthier, and longer lives than the rest of us. And I pose this question to you because you happen to represent more lottery winners than any other attorney in the United States. Can you confirm for us that this is the case?
They're happy, they're enjoying life, they're probably not spending as much as, that they could. I go through a list of things that they can do to make their life easier if they choose to, but most of them just really like to live that life of, being obscure, being the next door neighbor and not changing too much, which has been good. I'm happy that my clients are not building mansions, building these compounds. There's no one building a family compound that I know of. And one of the first things I want those winners to do is make up their list. Let's make up a list to say, okay, these are the things I need and these are the things I want. And then let's go at least 6 months without doing anything and take a look at those lists and say, was this really a need or was it a want? Can we move it before we buy something? So, I have a lot of clients, some of the ones that have won really outrageous amounts, I would say most of them that have won, they're still making money more than what they won because they're actually been too frugal, to be honest with you. And they're doing a lot of things, but at this level, at that 100 million, $200 million level, they can do a lot of things and still really enjoy their life.
Kurt, what is the single strangest request a client has ever made after winning?
Obviously it's the, I need a loan right now to get through, my current situation, which is kind of, it's tough because, you want to help them, but you want to keep the distance between you and the client. So, and what the bar rules say, that you can't do certain things, but, just trying to help them out in the process of moving in the right direction step by step.
Are there institutions out there who, like, for those individuals who like want money quick, but maybe can't claim it as fast, who say, okay, the collateral is going to be the ticket?
Yeah. So my question was, would you give the blank ticket to someone or some entity or some company? Absolutely not. And I would never recommend that.
They are out there though, aren't
claim
they?
it. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're out there. The Wentworths of the world and all that. These are companies that are legit companies, but they want to make a profit, so they're going to charge a 20% charge of to make money for their shareholders. So, again, that goes back to the annuity versus the lump sum argument that you have with people, because if you take the annuity, yeah, you're going to get this money every year for 30 years. And yeah, you're going to go through the same emotional trauma that you've been through this year 29 more times, but you lose control. Let's just say that we get to an area where we go from the gold standard cash and dollars to Bitcoin. What do I do then? Because I decided to take an annuity. Giving yourself that flexibility to control your own destiny, I think is really important. And so all the more reason today to say, the way this world is looking, let's take a look at maybe just, paying the taxes, being done with it, and not doing the annuity.
Okay, Kurt, let's transition here a little bit. Number one thing you always recommend is securing the ticket. What is the most stringent security measure you've ever seen a client take action on to secure a ticket?
I think, some people have followed my advice about getting a safe deposit box at a bank. I think that's the most secure thing that you can do and the smartest thing to do. But I've had people put it in a safe in a house, which I laughed at. And I said, okay, so you have a safe? What kind of safe? Is it a small? You go, yeah, it was a smaller safe. And I go, something that I could run out of the house with if I needed to? And they go, well, yeah, but I bolted it into the ground. I bolted it into the cement. I go, great. So you took like a torch and whatever you needed. Oh yeah. And I go, where was the ticket during all this? And the guy said, well, actually it was in an envelope inside the safe when I was doing it. So, he was using something that there was some sparks that it could have caught on fire and they could have lost the ticket, which I thought was, ridiculous. I also had a client that, put it inside a exercise bike at their house, knowing that, oh yeah, they put it there. And I'm going, anything can happen to it there. People, I have to tell people, do not put it in your freezer because that paper will waste away in the cold and the moisture. So, people do silly things.
You have to tell a client not to put the ticket in the damn freezer?
Well, I tell them that because people have done that before. And the print just leaves it. They're going to put it in plastic and all that stuff and tin foil, but still it's a moisture driven scenario.
I'm one of those that, you might have a headache with me if I was ever one of your clients. But I think we've built enough rapport where you would have some patience with me. But there's pushback to taking a ticket to the bank and putting it in a safety deposit box there. Yeah, I see it in the comments all the time. And you know what? There's a lot of people who are superstitious or just, it's a trust thing. I would personally be the person who, for the next 24 to 72 hours or however long it takes for you to fly to me, and take the ticket and help me process it and do whatever we have to do. I'm that person who's probably going to stare at the ticket and just leave it on my table and just sit here like I am now in this interview and just watch it so that nothing happens to it, especially because, human behavior changes. If it's like a $1 million win, okay, but if $1 billion win, I mean, I'd be staring at that ticket to make sure it doesn't change numbers. That's how freaked out I would be.
Yeah, and that's where I tell people, make copies front and the back of the ticket so they can have that available. Take a picture with the ticket right next to your face, a selfie kind of thing I always laugh about, but do that so you can prove that you had possession of the ticket. But really, a safe deposit box at a bank is, in reality, the safest place for it to be. I tell clients we don't need the ticket until the day of the claim, so it doesn't need to come out of it. It's not like you have to go back and forth. Just put it there, put it in an envelope, folder an envelope, take it to the bank, say, hey, I want to open up a safe deposit box, take it, put it in there, sign the card, and then there's checks and balances on it. It's the safest place it could possibly be in.
Let's move to this $100,000 winner. I think it was in Michigan or Missouri, who used ChatGPT to pick their numbers. What's your reaction to that?
I didn't know that, but great. I'm glad that happened. I've suddenly found out that ChatGPT says some wonderful things about me that I didn't even know existed. The things that I've done and been involved with. If you put my name in with ChatGPT, I couldn't have written a better thing for myself. So it's kind of just strange. So people have all different reasons for winning and how they win. I had someone out west that when I looked at their winning ticket, they had like 5 lines of numbers, and they were all pretty much the same, except one number was different on each one. I said, that's really strange. And I talked to the person and said, do you play with a plan? Oh yeah, I'm a mathematics major. That's what I was in college. I love math and I love playing the lottery. And I said, well, great. I said, you won a lot of money. He goes, well, I won before too. And I said, well, how much did you win last time? Well, I won a couple $1 million, but people knew about it. So this time I wanted to be anonymous. So that's why I called you. So it turns out that the individual said, I'm not married. I don't play golf. I don't smoke. I don't have any vices. I don't play tennis. I love the lottery and I love playing the lottery. I budget $75,000 a year. So, he plays the lottery, he obviously increased when the Mega Million went up because it went from $2 to $5, but maybe his budget went up. But can you imagine spending $75,000 a year just on playing the lottery? But the person doesn't play golf. They don't do this. They don't do that. So not married, don't have any kids. Why not? If you have the disposable income and that's your fun time, let's go ahead.
If somebody wins in California, okay, they win $1 billion in California through the lottery, and they say, okay, Kurt, I'm going to wait to claim it till after the tax season next year. And then they move to a place like Wyoming. Do they still pay state income tax?
Well, okay, so trick question, very good on your part. Number one, state of California does not tax lottery wins, so they don't have to worry about state income tax. But because it's sourced income, until they move out of California, move to another state and establish residency, the following year they would be residents of Wyoming, and they would have a lower income tax bracket, dividends, interest, and those types of things the following year. Now, my understanding is California has also changed their laws that even if you leave California, you still have to pay a tax there for like 10 years afterwards, even though you left California. So, it's just one of the things that they didn't like the idea of people moving out to tax-free states. So they implemented that a couple of years ago.
If you can change one lottery law tomorrow, what would it be? Obviously, everyone stays anonymous. If we could make it where everyone stays anonymous, that's the obvious one. But what would you change?
One of the things that kind of bothers me in a lot of states, you have to show up with your driver's license, with your ID, but you also have to come in with your Social Security card, your actual card. And the name on the card has to read exactly like your driver's license. So if you have a middle initial or a middle name, it better have just the initial or the name in both of them, or there's a holdup on it. So I don't like that. I mean, we talk about all these things you have to do to vote or not vote, with your ID and all this, but you won a lottery and, they should pay it to whoever was the winner or to the entity, whatever you want. But even if I claim it in an entity for a client and the client's the beneficial owner, they still have to show up with their driver's license and in their social security card in many states, and they have to be exact. I don't like that. I lost my social security card because I just didn't know where it was. And I had to go and get a new one. And it took like 2-3 weeks.
Kurt, what happens if somebody from across the southern border comes here, buys a lottery ticket, and wins?
It happens. It happens. A lot of scratch offs happen that way. Get lots of calls. Unfortunately for me, when they call, it's either a friend that calls me or they call me. And obviously there's a language barrier and I'm not comfortable. I'm not even comfortable talking to their friend or family member, telling them what I think, because I don't know if that's being translated. So, but there's no problem. You can come here. You don't have to have a social security number. You don't have to be a citizen to win. You come here, you're legally able to buy tickets. The only difference is that when you go to claim it, they're going to say, okay, instead of it being 24% that we're withholding 30%. That's the only difference. You still owe the other 13% the other 7% in April. So assuming that you're going to file, but they'll withhold 30% instead of the, and it may be more difficult for them to understand the rules. And the concern a lot of the lotteries have is when those people show up, they may have someone that can translate in their office, but the problem will be is they'll be concerned that someone took advantage of them somewhere down the road. So there's more holdups with the transfer of funds.
What's the single best financial move any of your lottery winners have ever made that made you go, wow, that was amazing?
I think, getting people that win the ridiculous amounts of money to understand the need for not only spreading the wealth amongst family members at the time of the claim, understanding what I'm trying to tell them, instead of mom and dad getting 100% and then making gifts to their kids and grandkids. Let's put a group together of some sort where mom and dad maybe control 60% and their 4 kids each get 10%. So that way each of the kids at 10% pay their own income taxes on their 10% and have sufficient funds to live their lives the rest of their life without having to work. And then mom and dad will spend some time working with some generation skipping attorneys that we do some special trust, asset protection trust, dynasty trust that we fund with their exemption amounts. So that way their kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids down the future will never have to work because, I have some people that put away $10 million a few years ago, and over the course of the last, 5 or 10 years where they've not taken anything out, those funds have almost doubled. Because they never took anything out. It's just been rolling over. So now there's $20 million in each of these trusts for these individuals that aren't even born yet. They're not even born yet. We can't even we could take the money out if we need to, but the actual beneficiaries aren't even identified yet. It's just a potential list for the future. So, that's some crazy stuff when you think about it, some fun stuff. And, it's unfortunate that I might not be around to talk to these future grandchildren and great-grandchildren so that they can at least know who I was to recommend it. But, maybe a statue someplace outside my office building, I'll put it there until they tear it down. Who knows?
They say the fact that you're even born is like a miracle, right? It's like winning the lottery when you think about all the seeds and stuff. Yeah. I don't know that. But to be born and to have 20 million in your name, come on. That's like, no one could be luckier than that.
The right gene pool, yep.
Let's leave my viewers with a lucky number. What's it going to be this time?
It's always been the same. That my lucky number has always been 9, and it's due. It's overdue. So, I'm a Chicago kid at heart, and Channel 9, WGN, that was the number. So that's my lucky number for anyone. That's my Mega Million number. So, that's it.
You
So
heard it, folks.
good luck to all. Yeah. Just call me if you're the winner. That's all I ask.
Lucky number 9. Okay, Kurt, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure.
You're welcome.